Terry here again. I was thinking this morning about how short periods of time, maybe a visit or something that happens in our life or an aha, can change life in such a radical way. It's disproportionate. Just a short period of time shifts something inside that lasts for decades. I was thinking of one specific visit that I made decades ago. I was pastoring in a church in Holland, Michigan, and I had heard of a person's name, Mary Geegh, Geegh, I believe. Mary Geegh, I'd heard that name. She was a shut-in and she was really in a nursing home. And people kept mentioning her name, so I decided one day that I would visit her. So I made an appointment to visit with Miss Geegh, and people didn't tell me too much about her. Just when I mentioned I was going to see her, that they would just, Mary, and they'd smile. So I had no idea what to expect. So I went to the nursing home and walked into the door in her room, and I looked over, and there was a very small lady in a fetal position turned away from me in a private room. So she was by herself, just all curled up into this, almost a little ball. And I walked in, and I didn't know if she was asleep or awake, and I said, Miss Geegh? And I heard this voice that was surprisingly strong, say, you the preacher? Yes, yes I am. She said, come over here and sit down where I can see you. So I went around and pulled up a chair and was shocked when I looked into her face. And the shock was not how small or frail she was, which she was both. I remember first her playful, broad smile, the biggest smile, but that little bit of playfulness, I'd even say naughtiness in it, and then her eyes. Her eyes were bright and sparkling, full of life, animated even, and I knew immediately that by the time she looked into my eyes, she had looked into my soul. Somehow, I was known by this frail little lady. Well, we chatted for a while. She asked about me, and I asked about her, how she was doing, and that smile even broadened. She said her life was so great. She couldn't roll over herself. She couldn't take care of herself, couldn't feed herself, but she was just so full of life and appreciation for the people that cared for her, that she could spend so much time interacting with staff when they're in there, or meditating, or wondering about things, or remembering, imagining. And I somehow came to the realization that that lady continued to grow, expand, experience life, perceptions, knowings, complexity, far beyond my capacity as a younger pastor. And I discovered later on that staff at that nursing home, when they got off their shift, they often would not go home directly. Instead, they'd go in and pull up a chair in front of Mary and just spend time with her. And that time that they spent with her was a transforming experience, because Mary was a transforming presence. So that short time, it probably wasn't even a half an hour that I spent with Mary, changed my perceptions of old age. So in a sense, was Mary's world getting smaller, more confined, more limited, tighter, less vital? Yeah, if you look at the physical side of things, mobility sides, she had been a missionary overseas, so look at the influence. You might say, yeah, her world has gotten very small. But after looking into her eyes, seeing her smile, being known by her, just touching that amazing presence helped me realize, no, her world was not smaller than mine. Her world was much broader, was much deeper, more expansive. The knowings that she had, be it in terms of touching people's lives or the all, the divine, the ground of all being, the universe, capital U universe, her world just kept expanding and expanding and expanding. And now that I'm in my 70s myself, in the later decades of my life, it was good to think about Mary again. I don't know what holds for me in the next years and decades. How long, how vital, how spacious my physical life will be. But I remember Mary and thinking, older age, maturity, growth doesn't need to stop. Our world doesn't need to get smaller. Because Mary taught me in that half an hour, decades ago, that lifelong growth is exactly that. Lifelong expansion, lifelong growth, lifelong transformation. That is what's available to me and available to you. So it's good to remember Mary. It's good to learn. It's good to wonder. It's good to set a similar trajectory. Talk to you the next time.